Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing? Welcome back to First Contact. Hope you had a good weekend. Let's jump into our cosmic weather for today. We've been getting hit by solar storms all weekend long. Let's see where we're at today. Our solar wind is currently at 494.4 kilometers per second. Our planetary K-index is at a storm level 6. Now that's as high as it's been all weekend long. We've had projections that it would get up to a 7. We haven't gotten up to a 7, but we are up to a 6 now. Expected to get no higher. We'll see how that goes. Chance of flares of an M-class nature are 80% and only 40% that we're going to get a X-class flare. And you can see our geomagnetic activity is active in the lower regions and higher regions, about 25%. Severity, not so much. Mainly going to have active activity, but not a lot of severity. All right, and as I was just saying, we're a moderate G2 class geomagnetic solar storm is underway following the arrival of a CME on March 12th at 9:30 Universal Time. The CME's impact caused strong ground currents in Norway. At the same time, photographic southern lights were recorded over New Zealand and Tasmania. High-latitude sky watchers should be alert for auroras. All right, and they have a nice little thing here if you want to check this out. Listen to what a solar flare sounds like coming on in. All right, moving right along. Astrologically, we are in the same sign for the conscious mind, for the sun sign, which is Pisces. However, our moon sign has evolved. Remember when we last left, we were right here on Libra, and then over the course of the weekend, it was changing from Libra to Scorpio, and today it is still in the Scorpio phase. Scorpio is a water sign. Emotions, so we got a day of emotions as well. Subconsciously, that is. And there's a lot of, with Scorpio comes the idea of the darkness, the depths of the oceans and the waters. So there's a lot of some of those type of energies that are being released. Not that Scorpio is a dark sign by any means, but each sign does look and explore different types of energies, and the energies Scorpio related are those that are sometimes buried a little deeper and therefore have a little bit more involved in intensity to them. All right, now moving right along, our moon is already on the way down again from the full moon back down to a new moon. We're already 76% of the way from 100% down to 76 and moving. On our Dreamspell calendar, we're starting a new wave spell. Here we are at the very beginning of this wave spell. We've got 13 days that we're going to go through now. And the theme of this wave spell is the theme of the night. The night is all about dreams and abundance and intuition. All right, so dreams, abundance, and intuition. The supporting cast, or let's start with the kin for today. The kin is the night. The guide is the night. The supporting cast members around it are the Skywalker is the antipode. The analog is the warrior. And the occult kin, the hidden power, is the mirror. So we got the Skywalker, the mirror, and the warrior. The phrase for today: I unify in order to dream, attracting intuition. I seal the input of abundance with the magnetic tone of purpose. I am guided by my own power doubled. That is because the guide is the same as the daykin. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Monday, March 12th, 2012. All right, so there you have it. Catches us up to speed with what's going on. Dirk Bradshaw is with us here today with his Cosmic News Weekly Report. Dirk, over to you.
And if you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives?
Flying high above the planet Earth, this is the Cosmic News Weekly with Dirk Bradshaw. I am Dirk Bradshaw. The Earth might have a pulse that causes extinctions every 60 million years. Every 60 million years, the biodiversity of our planet's oceans mysteriously crashes. This strange boom and bust cycle goes back 500 million years, and we now might know why. Rising continents make the oceans too shallow for species to survive. The notion of a pulse of the Earth caused by these convection processes deep within the Earth is intriguing. But how exactly is it causing all these extinctions? Well, as the continentals periodically increase in elevation, the ocean's depths along the continental shelf would in turn become much shallower. Most marine species are found along the continental shelves, and the sudden loss of available space could account for these periodic extinctions. It's far from the only explanation, and indeed the researchers say that these results only definitely apply to North America. But it's still a fascinating possibility, particularly when it all flows from the changing fortunes of a single isotope. Here's a scary thought for some, and also maybe a dream for others. Japanese researchers build speech-jamming gun that stops you mid-sentence. You're at a movie theater, and those kids behind you won't stop babbling. Not a problem. You reach into your bag, whip out your trusty speech-jamming gun, whirl it around your seat, and blast them. And guess what? No more chatting. This isn't a theoretical scenario. This silencing device actually exists. A team of Japanese researchers that created it call it Speech Jammer, and it could soon be coming to a theater or a library or conference hall near you. Speech Jammer works by exploiting a mind hack that psychologists have known for ages. That is that most people find it incredibly difficult to continue talking when the words that they are speaking are replayed to them at a slight delay. With this in mind, researchers created a handheld speech jamming device. The first speech jammer was simple. It consisted of a directional microphone and a directional speaker that allowed you to capture a person's voice and play it back to them with a delay of around 0.2 of a second. In later prototypes, the researchers incorporated a distance sensor and a laser pointer to make it even easier to target people individually. And finally, put this one down as the greatest use of taxpayer money. Scientists finally prove once and for all that there is life on Earth. A hotly debated subject is at last put to rest as scientists announce that they have conclusively confirmed that there is, in fact, life on Earth. They discovered this by looking at the moon. It may seem like a pointless exercise, but this discovery could help us find life on exoplanets. By observing the polarity and the color of the light from the Earth reflected from the moon, scientists were able to determine that the Earth is cloud-covered part of the time, and that there are oceans on the Earth, and that there is vegetation on the Earth's surface. Although it may be some time before these techniques can be applied to exoplanets, climatologists, oceanographers, and botanists will be gratified to know that their life work can now be accepted by the scientific community. Since animal life can't be confirmed yet, zoologists will just have to hang in there. Well, that's all she wrote for this week. I see the fat lady. She's getting off the stage. She's looking right at me. I need to go put her to bed. For the Cosmic News Weekly, I'm Dirk Bradshaw. I return you now to Joshua Poet and First Contact. This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much for that report. Life on Earth, sometimes it's questionable, but I think it exists. All right, our next story, our first UFO story for today, comes to us from Mars. Life discovered on Mars by NASA Opportunity Rover. We got photos up close here. It looks like an alien bunny rabbit. Alright, let's look at this right here. Alright, now, of course, NASA tries to downplay the fact that this is alien life, although it is moving and then disappears. Only NASA has the video of it moving across the sand, which they refuse to release, but have released a GIF of an ear moving at the original link below. You can clearly see its tiny legs touching the sand in the enlarged photo of the object. NASA is controlled by U.S. government exclusive when it comes to announcement to the public. Of course, they make an excuse and say it's part of the rover landing gear, like we were born yesterday. Why hide the existence of life? To put the USA ahead in the race for alien technology? This is their words below. Like a rabbit in the hat, the identity of the oddity that looks like bunny ears in the picture from Mars has eluded the science and engineering teams. The public, also fascinated with the mysterious object, has asked in a slew of emails, what is it? It is a yellowish object measuring 4 to 5 centimeters, about 2 inches long, and made its debut when Opportunity's eyes welcomed Earth to a new neighborhood on Mars in her mission success panoramic image. Meridian Plenum is a landscape unlike any other stop on our decades-long tour of the Red Planet. Still, it wasn't the conspicuous bedrock outcropping near the horizon that initially fascinated people. It was the bunny ears. There they are right there. In this photo, it has pink legs. I only add light to this photo. Alright, and original photo below the link. Right there. And here we go. We can watch it move. Alright, that's about the extent of it right there. It's just a GIF that goes back and forth. See the ear move slightly. Alright? Very good. From Mars, we're going to head on over to Russia. Quick hop, skip, and a jump away. Unusual daytime object was filmed above Russia on the 8th. Okay, let's take a look and see what we have here. Alright, there we go. Nice, somewhat translucent type object. Interesting. Alright, there you go. That's a sighting over Russia. Next, we have unknown flashing lights above Rio de Janeiro. This is just the other day on the 11th. Take a look at what we've got here. Alright. Right there in the middle of the screen, small light. See it? Right here. Okay. We've all seen these kinds before. And we got 2 of them now. Alright, that's where we ended at 2. So there you go, the link's available. Next we have blue UFO or orb hovering over Ventura, California on the 9th. While driving home from Santa Barbara, I saw this blue and pink orb flying around the Ventura County Fairgrounds. Exited the freeway and parked the C Street beach to check it out. There was already people gathering around trying to figure out what the strange object was. I spoke to several people and they all said that it was hovering around the beach for quite some time. I pulled out my phone and took the footage before the UFO changed directions and headed towards the freeway. Part 2 of my weird UFO footage. After the UFO left the beach, I followed it towards the freeway and parked at the Ventura Amtrak station and proceeded to capture the footage with my phone. I was thinking RC2, but I couldn't hear anything, not even a little buzz. Alright, let's check this out. This is UFO in Ventura. See it right in the middle there. Alright. Blue light in the sky. You've seen that. Let's see. Alright. And then this is the second part of it here. There's the blue light again. Alright, very interesting. So there's what we have in Ventura. Next comes to us from Indiana. Strange UFO light formation recorded over Indiana. This is from Tracy Pierce. The Examiner. Mysterious video of multicolored moving lights was recorded in the sky over Indiana on Saturday the 10th. The UFO sighting was reported to MUFON on the following day. According to UFO Stalker, the witness supplied the following description of the event. A friend of mine called and said she was coming by to pick me up, and her family had been watching two objects in the sky for the last hour. She wanted to follow the objects. We drove down a state road and could never catch up with the two objects. They seemed to say equal distance from us as we continued to drive. We pulled over to the side of the road, stopped, and got out of the vehicle. The two objects seemed to hover over the same area, but a distance from it. I videotaped the event with my phone, and this time when we realized the objects are different colored lights. Alright, let's take a look at this. Filmed with the phone. Alright. There we go. Alright, pretty interesting. That's a really interesting looking one right there. Night bright object, sending out another object from it there. Alright, this is a good sighting, good capture. Well, very good. The link's available. You can check it out. And the last, glowing UFO descends upon German farm. Also from Tracy Pierce at the Examiner. A new video from Germany shows a glowing UFO descending upon a quiet farm. The identified flying object was luminous and glowing bright blue against a darker blue sky. From the appearance of the sky in the footage, it appears the UFO took place at dusk or dawn. According to Gather, as the object circles in the distance, barely glimpsed through the trees, it reveals features no bird in the world displays. If it is a bird, then it is made of silver and has a reflective tail made of blinking lights. Reaction to the video has been mixed. Some people refuse to believe the UFO recorded in the video could have been a bird. Well, let's find out for ourselves. How about that? Let's find out. Is this a bird? And if so, what kind of bird is it? Okay, it's one of those, obviously a big bird if this is a bird, because it's just hanging over the trees. And it's a very smooth flying bird, if that's the case. And it has a glowing body. So this is one of the big, large, glowing birds of Earth, as you can see, flying high. And now it looks like the bird makes a maneuver, and it looks like the bird is coming down for a landing of sorts. There you go. There's the flashing light on the bird, because we all know that they have them on their beaks. And there it goes. The bird has its landing lights and is moving down. Very good. All right. That's our UFO news for today. I'll be back. It's time to wake up.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's continue on here. Next up is about Ron Paul. Ron Paul won his first caucus. However, the MSN, which is the mainstream media, well, they've decided not to report this. They reported that Romney won. All right. This is from Steve Watson. Says, when Ron Paul wins the popular vote, it no longer counts. Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul secured his first caucus victory over the weekend by winning 29% of the popular vote among the people of the United States Virgin Islands. However, the mainstream media decided to report that despite coming in second with 26%, Mitt Romney was the real winner. The Republican Party of the U.S. Virgin Islands reported the results as 112 to Paul, 29%, 101 to Romney, 26%, 23 to Santorum, 6%, and 18 to Gingrich, 5%. In response to AP and other mainstream reports yesterday claiming that Mitt Romney won the caucus because he stands to come away with more delegates. Ron Paul supporters and the campaign themselves have been tirelessly pointing out that many of the states that have already held primaries and caucuses, the amount of delegates the congressman has secured does not always reflect his positioning in the straw polls. Indeed, in Iowa and New Hampshire, Paul secured as many delegates as Romney and Santorum. Yet the media has always reported the winner as the candidate who won the higher percentage of the popular vote. Not so this time around. When Ron Paul secures a caucus victory, the media changes the rules and declares it is the delegate count that determines the real winner. The media is reporting that Mitt Romney won the U.S. Virgin Island caucus when Ron Paul actually won the popular vote, wrote Paul campaign team in an email to supporters. If the popular vote means you've won, you've won. Then Ron Paul just won the U.S. Virgin Island caucus. If collecting delegates equals victory, then Paul stands to do that there too, the Paul campaign added. The media is trying to have it both ways, with Romney and Virgin Island caucuses, while ignoring Ron Paul's actual straw poll first-place victory. Here's Paul campaign blogger Jack Hunter. I'm going to play this for you because this is, well, it's good info to know. Here we go.
The U.S. Virgin Islands had their caucus over the weekend, and we're hearing in every media report that Mitt Romney won the U.S. Virgin Island caucus. The problem with that is Ron Paul actually won the popular vote. Here's a little math lesson for you mainstream media folks out there. Ron Paul won 29% of the vote in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Mitt Romney won 26%. Now, admittedly, I'm not very good at math, but the last time I checked, 29% was higher than 26%. Now, this is important. If we're going to gauge who wins the primaries and caucuses by who wins the popular vote, as we have in every single other primary or caucus contest, then Ron Paul unquestionably won the U.S. Virgin Island caucus. But if we're going to start to measure it according to delegate counts, as the mainstream media has done with Romney and the Virgin Islands, then when we go back and look at who actually has accumulated the most delegates in some of these states, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and beyond, and Ron Paul actually picks up more delegates possibly than what his straw poll finish would indicate, is the mainstream media going to adjust accordingly? Well, I don't think they are. The mainstream media is trying to have it both ways, and any responsible journalist, by using the parameters we've used throughout this election, would be reporting that Ron Paul won the U.S. Virgin Island caucus. But once again, when Ron Paul does win, they find all sorts of ways to ignore it or pretend like he's not. Well, this is just another example of that. Congratulations to Ron Paul on winning the U.S. Virgin Island caucus.
All right, there you go. Ron Paul got victory number one, the Virgin Islands. So, you know, it seems to me like Americans are their own worst enemy. I'm telling you. I go to the forums and I scout around for what's going on out there, and It's sad to say that some of these forums that are out there, there's some good forums, but there are just some of the most brain dead comments that I've seen, and I'm just amazed when I see these comments. The comments of absolute racism that exists out there, the shills, the people who support and stand up for the criminals and the corruption. It's incredible. Americans are your own worst enemy. You need to stop doing that because there's good things going on. But unfortunately, so many of the good people that are out there that could be really standing for the things that are hurting them, they've got their heads so far buried up the backside because they've been misinformed about what's going on that they don't even know what's going on. And so they stand up for the wrong things. It's like the police who are defending the criminals out there. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're not. For all of those who stand up and they want to defend Romney or Gingrich or Santorum, but they have the same policies of war as the problem makers of the past. There's nothing different about them. Yet there will be those who will stand up, and there will be those in the media that will lie about all of these events because they don't know how to tell the truth. They're afraid. Ron Paul has been doing quite well throughout this election period. However, the mainstream news, unfortunately, has far too much weight, and people believe that because of what they say is true, that that's actually true. It's not. It really isn't. All you got to do is be willing to go and do a little research on your own. The internet makes that very possible these days. All you got to do is go check it out. You can see what's going on for real. And, Fox, MSN, CNN, they don't want you to go search these things because it proves them to be wrong. They want you to sit and watch the television, to not think, and to accept every word they say as face value. So when Anderson Cooper goes on, and when he does a show where he's faking something, he wants you to pretend that what he's saying is real and not think twice. You need to think twice, folks. You're being fooled. They are laughing at you. And every time that you get fooled, they're laughing harder. So the question is, are you going to continue to be their clown? Are you going to continue to be the pawn and the clown of the establishment and be laughed at because you buy all of their lies? Or are you actually going to stand up and realize that the joke's on you and that you better do something about it? I suggest that that is what you should do. All right, moving right along. This is another story about Ron Paul. Here we go.
Let's go now to the GOP race for the presidency. Ron Paul with some new remarks saying he's drawing big crowds, but when it comes to voting, he isn't getting as big of a response. Congressman Paul has locked in only 31 delegates, and the latest Gallup poll has him certainly in fourth place with an 11% rating there in a national race. So what is keeping him in there? Joining me right now, Jesse Benton, campaign chairman for Ron Paul 2012. Jesse, good day to you. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me.
Well, look, here's something that's interesting because we have Ron Paul himself having said that he can't picture himself in the Oval Office. So if that's the case, what then is the mission of his campaign?
Well, the mission is to win, and that was an out-of-context quote where Dr. Paul was simply saying that, it's not his be-all, end-all dream. He doesn't hit the pillow every night picturing himself measuring the drapes in the Oval Office. That doesn't mean he doesn't think he can win or he should win. But we're having a lot of success here, and we're doing a lot of things under the radar. Yesterday, we won 57% of the delegates up in a convention up in Alaska. We did very, very well in the Iowa county conventions yesterday, and won a really strong percentage of delegates moving on to the state convention. We also won delegates in Wyoming and in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we're accumulating delegates. We're pushing forward, and we plan to roll to Tampa with a very, very large contingency of bound delegates, and also a lot of delegates that will be bound to other candidates on the first ballot, but we'll free up for Dr. Paul should we get into a brokered convention.
Well, look, and that's a big should we. And I will say most everyone credits your team with being the most successful in terms of organizational skills and getting, people out there. And so bravo to you for that. But I know you talk about this being a quote that was taken out of context. That said, if there's any sort of a message by Ron Paul himself that he can't see himself in the Oval Office, again, there seems to be some disconnect. I mean, you may get crowds, but what's going to make people go into the polling booth and pull the lever or punch that ballot for somebody who doesn't really envision himself as the President of the United States.
I think it's a very good thing that it's not his dream to take power. That's not why he's running. He wants to be president so he can make real changes, try to save this country, restore our Constitution. He's not doing it for personal ambition, desire for personal power. So I think that's very good. I think it's attractive to people. But you do make a good point. We need to continue to work harder. We need to push very hard to make sure we don't get marginalized by the mainstream media, which is very difficult. And we also need to continue to make the case. A lot of the young people that Dr. Paul wins, he's very, very strong in the young vote routinely wins the vote of young people 18 to 30. We need to continue to make the case to them that they need to turn out. We need to get them to turn out in greater numbers. It's very critical for people in this age group. This election is now. The debt crisis is at our door. Do we want to take our country back? Do we want to let ourselves drift off and become a second-rate nation?
Okay, so if he doesn't win, what is his best hope? Is he going to try to cut some sort of a deal? I mean, have you had those conversations?
We haven't had any conversations outside of just a little bit of musing with some other senior staff and Dr. Paul, but
so
there are a lot of different things we could fight for.
Okay, like what?
Sure. Well, obviously our ultimate goal is for Dr. Paul to be the nominee. Short of that, there are various things we could negotiate for. Lots of different platform changes to the GOP, cabinet positions for our supporters, the vice presidency, whole variety of things. But the first and foremost goal is, of course, for Dr. Paul to be the nominee.
And what's the key issue the Paul campaign would like to see lead the debate from this point?
I guess the three things go hand in hand. One is constitutional war. We only go to war when it's declared. Number two would be sound money. We want transparency at the Federal Reserve. We want a lot less inflation, no more printing press money. And number three, we want civil liberties. We want to roll back things like the National Defense Authorization Act, and we want some common sense reform or rollback of the Patriot Act.
Okay. Jesse Benton, campaign chair for Ron Paul 2012.
All right, very good. Very good. Ron Paul is doing a lot better than people admit and the mainstream wants to admit. It's kind of strange. He'll go someplace and he'll pull 6,000, 6,600, people to a speech he'll be giving in one area, one city, and yet in the whole state he'll get like 8,000 votes. That's kind of weird. So either people aren't voting that are showing up, or something weird is going on. But there's been weirdness and strangeness taken on, showing its face during this process, and, well, that's just how it is in America, unfortunately. Now, here we go. Panetta, Dempsey, and treason, and Congress did nothing. And that's a part of our problem, folks. Congress is a big problem. Congress is a bunch of duds that really doesn't seem to care about this country. We keep thinking the president's responsible and we need to hold him accountable. I think we need to hold Congress accountable, because here we have several hundred men and women who should know better, but apparently don't understand the rules of this country and keep getting fooled. So here, you heard the statements. It says the recent statements by Leon Panetta and Joint Chief of Staff Chairman General Martin Dempsey to the effect that they are under no obligation to the Congress to seek their permission to start war. Both Panetta and Dempsey claim their authority comes from the United Nations and NATO. These were the clear and unambiguous declarations of submissions to foreign governments, agencies, and organizations, and ended with the dismissing of the Constitution as not applicable to them or their decisions. I have to wonder why both men were not frog-marched out of the meeting and straight to jail. But then we are talking about the District of Criminals here, and we know it is rare, and anyone in the district ever goes to jail, no matter how un-American, unlawful, or unconstitutional or treacherous their activities or views. Both men did, however, say they might inform Congress. Panetta was asked by Senator Jeff Sessions, "We spend our time worrying about the UN and Arab League, NATO, and too little time, in my opinion, worrying about the elected representatives of the United States. As you go forward, will you consult with the United States Congress?" The Defense Secretary responded, "Our goal would be to seek international permission, and we would come to Congress and inform you and determine how to best approach this, whether or not we would want to get permission from the Congress." So if I understand correctly, they would seek permission from a non-U.S. entity, and then if they thought it was any business of the United States as to our military would be used, they would make a decision as to whether or not they would actually want to get permission from Congress. And these two men are actually walking around in free. See, That's absolutely ludicrous. There's treason going on in this country, and there's too many frickin' brain-dead individuals in this American country of ours that aren't paying attention. Pay attention out there, folks. Pay attention. If my words offend you, too bad. It's because you're not paying attention out there. You've got gentlemen here in office which are going directly against the Constitution. They should be dragged out and thrown into jail. But instead, most people just go through their daily lives and ignore the situation that's taking place in this country. Well, when problems really get worse and you want to know who to blame, go look in the mirror. And then you can blame yourself for being apathetic and doing nothing. When your kids, years from now, are having all kinds of problems because the rules and regulations are limiting them even more than you, go look in the mirror, point the finger at yourself. You'll see the problems because you did nothing when you had the chance. Now is the time, folks. Now is the time to pay attention and do something before it gets to be far too late. Because that moment of far too late, well, we've almost arrived and it's almost too late. You need to step up, Americans. You need to remember what's important to you because you've forgotten somehow. Here's another important question coming to us from Intel Hub. Will a sitting president finally be held accountable for high crimes and misdemeanors? Impeachment proceedings begin in the House and Senate over Obama's brazen use of aggressive military force without congressional authority. Since 2005, Veterans for Peace and others have been calling for the impeachment of the sitting president for war crimes. After their demands to lawmakers to uphold the rule of law against Bush were largely ignored, they renewed their effort to impeach Obama once he continued to bomb sovereign nations without congressional approval. Now, lawmakers seem to have finally decided to take the rule of law and separation of powers seriously. Obama will seek impeachment over his failure to seek congressional authorization before launching offensive military action in Libya last year. Official impeachment proceedings have been filed in both the House and the Senate. Last week, North Carolina Representative Walter Jones filed an impeachment resolution in the House, expressing the sense of Congress that the use of offensive military force by the president without prior and clear authorization of an act of Congress constitutes an impeachable high crime and misdemeanor. And yet, this is not making the mainstream news. President is being held accountable. Impeachment proceedings are going forward, and the press ignores it. You know, you got to wonder, when there's so much information about this president being a fraudulent president and all the fraud around him, isn't it amazing that there are so many that are willing to defend him? Don't you find that absolutely incredible? And if they're willing to defend him, either the defenders are absolutely stupid and they don't realize that they're defending a man who's so fraudulent, or they don't care, which means that they're part of the problem. And if they don't care, and if there's that many in Washington that really don't care, boy, do we have a problem in this country. Because then this country has been sold out. And every one of those congressmen and women need to be taken out of office and replaced with somebody who will do the job properly. Perhaps if the men and women in Congress were put into a position where they were no longer getting the benefits of Congress and they were treated like everybody else, perhaps they might see the error of their ways. Or perhaps, maybe not. Maybe the corruption is so deep that we're never going to get out of it, and the only resolution is for the earth to shake like a dog and shake all the corrupt people off. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why all these changes are going on, because maybe every now and then society gets to a point where it just gets so corrupt that the only thing to do is wipe the slate clean and start over. I can understand that. I could certainly understand how that could be, because there's a terrible disease spreading across this planet. It's called apathy. People don't care about what's going on, and so they allow more corruption to happen, and more corruption happens. And it gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse. Until there's a point where, how do you fix it? How do you fix it when the very people who are complaining about the corruption are actually doing things to make things more corrupt? Or complaining and not doing anything? You know, where do we go from here? Media sleepwalks while history is in the making. Reburying the recently unearthed 9/11 reports. Here again. America is its own worst enemy. In the last week, 3 important new articles have added to our understanding and raised new questions about the crimes of September 11, 2001. As of today, Friday morning, there is nary a peep about their contents in the U.S. mainstream media. The lack of apparent media attention may be in keeping with character and predictable, but sad nonetheless. When are they going to wake up? Can we make a valid prediction market for that date? Last Saturday, the London-based Telegraph published an article by Anthony Summers, Neil Tweedle, and Dan Christensen titled London-based Oil Executives Linked to 9/11 Hijackers. The same day, the independent Florida-based Broward Bulldog published a related article by Christensen and Summers titled FBI Informant Says Sarasota Saudi Praised Bin Laden, New Broward County CADA Suspect. And then on the next Monday morning, the Broward Bulldog put another article by Summers and Christensen titled Graham, FBI's public statements are in conflict with still secret records of Sarasota 9/11 probe. The Graham, in the third title, is Senator Robert Graham of Florida. Graham served in the U.S. Senate for 18 years, where his tenure included 10 years as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. That committee led the Senate's contribution to the Congressional Joint Inquiry into the 9/11 attacks, published in late 2002 report whose public contents were highly redacted. Alright, so again, the media is sleeping. Hey, if you're in the mainstream media, don't you remember when you went to school, you learned about integrity and being a journalist? What happened? You got into the real world and you found out that you couldn't be a real journalist unless you were corrupt? Is that what it is? It's a shame. It's a shame. The way you've sold out your integrity, but don't worry. I know for a fact that in the end, when you meet your maker, you're going to have to answer for the integrity you sold out, and guess what? You're not going to get off the hook so easily on that one. So go ahead, keep having lack of integrity. All right, New York officers thrown into psych ward by superiors after revealing systemic corruption. Again, another situation of Americans are their own worst enemy. Adrian Schoolcraft and the New York Police Department's 81st Precinct in Brooklyn noticed some disturbing trends within the department, and in response to his brave move to step forward, his superiors had him thrown into a psychiatric ward. Schoolcraft realized that there was a pattern of crimes being caught up in bureaucratic hurdles which he thinks were deliberately put in place in order to make it harder to report serious crimes. He then did his job and reported multiple incidents to its investigators in 2009. According to the Village Voice, in October of 2009, Schoolcraft met with the NYPD investigators for some 3 hours, during which he detailed 12 cases of manipulation of crime reports in his district. 3 weeks after the meeting, which was supposed to have been kept secret from his superiors for obvious reasons, he was targeted. Schoolcraft's precinct commander and deputy chief both ordered him to be forcibly removed from his apartment and locked up in the psychiatric ward of Jamaica Hospital for 6 days. This is not the first time Schoolcraft has stood up to corrupt practices at the NYPD. In the past, he released 2 years' worth of recorded roll calls at NYPD precinct. These recordings led to an award-winning series in the Village Voice revealing widespread incompetence and corruption in the department. You can go on and read the article. Again, if the officers who swear to protect the citizens are corrupt and the agencies are throwing in the officers, and punishing those who are stepping forward and pointing out the corruptions, we really have a problem. Again, America is their own worst enemy. In this case, the police force in New York is not the friend of the people, apparently. Now, here's an update. 177 resignations from world banks, investment houses, and money funds. Accountability continues as more and more dominoes continue to fall. Since Easy posted the last update on March 4th, we are now looking at 177 resignations across the banking and finance sectors around the world. As some additions have been inserted for dates previously listed, I've included the entire updated list from American Kabuki below. Alright. As you can see, we've got New York Mellon Chief Robert P. Kelly resigns. We've got Scotland. We've got Switzerland. We can go down. I'm not going to read this list, but you can just go down the list, and there are resignations from bank workers all around the world. All around the world. Goldman Sachs. I mean, these are places that we know that have been ripping off Americans and ripping off the world, and now they're resigning because, like cockroaches, they are scattering. They realize that they are being caught up and going to be held accountable. And of course, criminals like that, they don't want to be held accountable. No, that's why they're criminals. Okay? So if you go into the criminal profession, you don't have to be accountable, apparently. Apparently, you can be a criminal and you can get as high up as the President of the United States. You can be a criminal and get into any sort of high-ranking position in this country. Apparently, they even probably have there are even positions for terrorists, because we have the TSA agency. They hire terrorists every day to terrorize the American people. You can be a terrorist and you can work for the United States government and then terrorize the people. Or more and more every day, the police forces across the United States, they hire terrorists who go out and terrorize American people. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. This is what's going on. Our country is becoming a terrorist country. I don't like it like that, because I don't like the idea of terrorists in this country. But we're kind of stuck with it because the terrorists are in the government, and then they've branched out, and they're in all forms of country, and lots of problems. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that for a moment. It only irritates and frustrates me. All right, next one here. This is a severe weather alert from Dutch Sense. Here we go.
Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. 11:17 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, March 11th, 2012. And I want to show you a few things that are going on here on telecast. First thing that stands out to me right off the bat, out in front of the storm, is a scalar square and heart ring outbreak. And that's occurring in eastern Kentucky, going up into Ohio and east into West Virginia. So let me just back this out. You guys can see what's going on. The storm is huge itself. It's going all the way from South Dakota down to New Orleans, and it's producing tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail, and you can see these all marked here. The National Weather Service has issued tornado warnings, which does mean tornadoes detected either on the ground or forming, and Titan Storm Tracking, the computer, is detecting possible damaging winds and hail. So just be aware of the situation in the south. But out here ahead of the storm, you can see, it's really obvious, a series of frequency spikes that are occurring only in one area. You've got plenty of other radar stations all around the entire area, but these are the only ones that are producing a frequency spike. Now, included in the frequency spike of rings, you can see what appears to be a square, what I call a scalar square. Now, the reason I call it a scalar square is, you guys will have to go look this up, is scalar radar. And the type of dish that emits this, I believe, is either rectangular or square, and it produces a square return of interference on the regular radar, even though inside of the square it's capable of producing an actual radar return. So it's not like it's hollow missing data, okay? It's something else. So let's just go ahead and let this load. I'm going to pause this up really quick, guys, while it loads. Okay, and let me go ahead and animate it up now that it is officially loaded. There we go. And you can see it flash on. Let me go ahead and back this up a few. There you go. You can see it flash on. And usually what we see is when you see a scalar square, it occurs in conjunction with several HARP rings, first of all. A HARP ring being a term that I've designated for a ground-based station that emits a circular-shaped frequency that interferes or causes certain types of weather phenomenon. It can either stop weather or start it depending on the type of frequencies that are used. That's because the frequency itself goes all the way up into the Earth's magnetosphere and comes back down to the South Pole at a corresponding location on the South Pole. So this station here would emit the frequency. It goes all the way up and down and comes back to the emitting station. That's natural. It happens naturally. The Earth reflects that magnetic signal all the way back. When it comes back to the ground-based station, that's when you see severe weather occur. Now, this all occurs at the speed of light over the course of multiple days. So you got to figure this frequency goes out and then it bounces around for 2 to 3 days. And this isn't my estimation. This is per scientific papers that I've read, which are linked on this website. Now, what you'll come to find is that this produces a vortex rotation after a while with these other rotating ground-based stations and the insertion of this mass amount of frequency. It causes severe weather to form or come to the station within 24 to 48 hours. So let's just say if it was to affect this storm here, the hardest part of this storm would come through Jackson, Kentucky. So small area to look out for would be the center of that square. Also, it looks like the other ring areas would be areas we'd need to watch. As far east as Washington, D.C., as far south as Richmond, and as far west as central Kentucky. And that could be this storm. It could also be the next storm that's forming out west. When you see the two systems, they're back-to-back, just like our previous severe weather outbreak 2 weeks ago. And I think that we're probably going to see the same kind of formation. It's already a very organized system out here to the west. It's huge, and it makes this current system in the Midwest look rather small. So once it comes through, it will do the same thing. It's going to pull down here, it's going to pull up the warm air from the south, and it will intersect this area. So it could be a double wham with that scalar square. All right? Cheers, folks.
All right, very good. So, and once more, check this out here. Here's that 303. Remember, for some reason, those numbers, they get stuck at 300s. 302. Good job of YouTube making sure the numbers stay low. They do this with a lot of videos. On one hand, YouTube appears to be a friend of everybody. On the other hand, they seem to censor things, and I don't quite understand whose side are you on, YouTube? Exactly whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the people, or are you on the side of the government that wants to censor? That I'd like to know, because there seems to be a lot of censoring activity that does take place on YouTube here. And I think it would be good if you actually came out and made a stance, told the American people where you stand. Not just the American people, people around the world. Are you for censorship, or are you against it? Because if you're against it, you should quit censoring other people's videos. It really kind of is contradictory to what your beliefs apparently are. Anyway, last but not least for today, let's do our meditation. Go ahead and close your eyes and relax. All right. We've all made it back from the weekend. We've begun a new week. So let's imagine ourselves in a race car at the starting line, and go. And everybody's off. And at first it's like a race, and all the cars are vying for position. And after you go around the track a couple of times, you realize that life really isn't a race. It doesn't matter how fast you go to get to the certain point. When you get to the end of the road, life continues on. And the race was just a moment. So once you realize this, you slow down. You get back into the flow of what life is about and the pace that life has set. And in the pace that life has set, we are all moving along at the same time, in the same place. It's not a race. For everybody has the opportunity to grow equally. You do not come in first by being the first one through the finish line. You come in first by simply understanding what needs to be understood. And once you understand, you may find out that there are millions who are in first. Make sure all your chakras are activated from the bottom of the spine, red, to the chakra above it, orange, just below the rib cage, yellow, to the heart chakra, green, to the throat chakra, blue, to the third eye chakra, violet, and the crown chakra, indigo, turning to white as it continues into the cosmos. Let's imagine sending love all around the planet and a good vibe to everybody on the planet. And with that, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it. Another show, prayer, meditation. We've made it again. Another week. Let's see where this one takes us. It's been a pleasure as always. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Be safe. Peace. I'm out of here.